Yeah, definitely. I mean, over the course of a 162-game season, I guess, any team's bound to get hot. Although, this is their longest winning streak, or was their longest winning streak, I should say, in I think 3 years. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a nice change up from what we saw the first 5 weeks of the season. But, as you were just saying, they've had a lot of different guys contribute. It hasn't just been one or two guys. It's been up and down the lineup. I mean, Freddie Galvis has been consistent all year. But beyond that, guys kind of got hot and cold. And even Utley, he's emerged in the last week. I think he's had a double in 4 or 5 straight games now after not having a double. He had one in the first, 6 weeks of the season or 4 weeks of the season, whatever it was. So yeah, it's encouraging. And the other thing is their starting pitching has been pretty consistent over the last week and a half.
Yeah, the starting pitching's been great, and Harang didn't get a lot of help last night. 3 unearned runs, and Hamels really turned in the corner. I think he tweeted out, "Take April out." He has been really, really strong, and obviously his name comes up a lot. But him and Harang at the top of that rotation have really given them some stability up there. How is Hamels this stage into the season? I mean, you haven't heard a lot about anything, any calls, but is the anticipation still that he's not going to be here?
Yeah, I mean, no one's fooling themselves that this team, his recent streak is, going to vault them into any kind of wild card contention. I can't imagine. I don't think anybody's, I mean, I know that there's, you can get some free stuff out here in Colorado that might make you think certain things, but I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I think that they're very realistic. They know which way this organization is headed, and most prudent thing to do, and it's tough as it is, because he is a rock and he is still in his prime. I mean, they're not going to be in the playoffs for the next this year, next year, and then probably the following year after that. So, you probably should sell high and get what you can for him. And I think that that's clearly still their thinking. And the good thing is Harang's another option. I mean, last year they traded not Jerome Williams, but Roberto Hernandez for 2 prospects. And Roberto Hernandez wasn't even having the year that Aaron Harang's having. So, you should be able to get a decent, at least one decent prospect for Harang. You add that to what you should be able to get for Hamels, and I think the demand for Hamels is going to be pretty high. And I think it is pretty high. You're not hearing a whole lot right now, but I think a lot of teams are in a holding pattern. You don't normally see deals in the first 2 months of the season. Usually teams like to see where they're at in, say, June, mid-June, early July before they say, hey, you know what, we're in it, we need to make a move. And I think there's going to be at least a handful of teams that are going to be in on Hamels, and there aren't a whole lot of number ones available. I mean, Scott Kazmir might be a guy that could be an alternative for a team, but, Hamels is clearly a cut above everybody else that's available, not only in his track record, which I wrote a pretty lengthy story about him last week, and just, where he ranks in Major League sphere and in Phillies history, but also just the fact that he has that playoff experience too, and, a team like the Red Sox, the Cubs, the Dodgers, Cardinals, who all expect to go to the playoffs this year. I'm sure they'd like a guy that, that's been there, done that, and has succeeded.
Ryan Lawrence is with the Phillies in Colorado for the series tonight. They continue their 6-game win streak snaps. Severino Gonzalez will throw for the Phillies. And, one of the reasons why they've been able to win some of these games is because when they have close games, Rye, Jonathan Papelbon has closed them out. Yeah, he said a few things, but he seems like he's been somewhat of a model citizen during this regular season. Has his stock risen around baseball, and is now there a possibility that they may be able to get something for him, something that maybe they didn't think they could have got entering the year?
Yeah, well, there's 2 factors at play there. I mean, one is that he is getting the job done, and he has that vesting option that's probably going to kick in for next year. Well, that doesn't look as daunting anymore for, another team, at least if they have the payroll flexibility, because he's a guy that can still do the job. So, if you're getting him this year and next year, it looks like he could probably do the job next year just as well as he's doing it this year. I don't think he's shown any signs of decline, even though his fastballs may have decreased in the last 4 or 5 years in velocity. He still has that know-how. He still has that pitchability and that confidence, and that's very underrated. When you lose some, little something as a veteran, and you're able to make adjustments and still have that ability to get out. So yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly a market for him. And yeah, he has been a model citizen, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that he realizes that he wants to go somewhere else. He hasn't made any. He's made that very clear within the last 2 years. And if he had some kind of incident like he had last year, that might scare off the team. So why even risk scaring off one potential team that might be interested. So yeah, he's been very consistent, and he's been a model citizen. So, I think odds are he's not going to be here in 2 months.
Ryan, give me your take on the outfield situation. When you bring Ashe back in, is there an odd man out? What's Brown's situation? I mean, there's a lot of outfielders out here, and they're going to obviously have to do something. A decision is going to have to be made at some point. So Revere, Brown, Ashe, Francoeur, Sizemore, Herrera, what do you make of the outfield situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely crowded now a little bit, and it's going to be more crowded, like you said, when Ashe comes up and when and if Don Brown is ever back on the scene. I wrote about this last week. I just think a trade is obvious. A guy like Revere, they've already coming into this year. He didn't play anywhere for the Phillies but center field, and in the first 5 weeks of the season, he was already playing two different positions. So he's already been pushed out of center field. They moved him. They moved him over to the right with the anticipation that, or first they moved him over to the right because they wanted to get Ruffman at bats in the left, and then when Ashe comes back, Ashe's going to be playing left. So it seems to me that Ben Revere is probably going to be the odd man out, and it makes a little sense. It makes a lot of sense too. Not that I don't think Revere is worthy of playing for the Phillies, but he's one of the few guys that has trade value. I mean, he's a guy that is around a career 300 hitter. He has base stealing ability, so I think a contending team would surely take a chance on a guy like that, even if he's not going to be one of your starting outfielders. He could be in a mix. A team's using 4 outfitters and rotating through positions. I think he makes a lot of sense. It seems like the Angels is reportedly interested in Revere. They've got almost zero production from left field, and again, you plug him in that lineup, he's going to hit. He's going to be a base stealer, and again, for a contending team, you go in the playoffs and you have that kind of guy, even if he's not starting for you, coming off the bench. That's a very, very intriguing, option to have if you're a playoff team. So, to me, it seems like all signs point to Ben Revere getting traded. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but we were just talking about crowded outfield situation. Someone has to go.
Absolutely. Now, what is the word on Ashe? How is he handling left field, and do they have any target date for him to come back up?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I was going to look into that when I got to the ballpark today, so I don't really have a clear answer for you. But yeah, I would imagine, they're going to want him out there for a couple of weeks because, you're not going to learn to play left field overnight. They won't want him to come to the major leagues and embarrass himself. I think I did read that he made at least one error, maybe two, in the last week. But, I don't have my eyes on him, so I don't know, how he's played balls that didn't do him. Like I said, I was going to look into that. But, I don't think he's coming back this weekend. Because he does have to stay down in the minor leagues for at least 10 days, so I think that would expire pretty soon. I think it would be this weekend. But, I would think that it'd probably get at least another week down there. But, again, that's also depending on how he looks.
All right, Rye, you look at and by the way, he's new down there, and they brought Franco up, and I've been accused many times of rushing young players to come up to the big leagues, and I was quite happy to see that they were able to do that. I know they waited to get that extra year from him, but it seems like he's added a little something, a little spark. He gives you that right-handed bat, but he's also produced. What are you seeing from Franco that fans, that should be exciting, that you didn't see last year? He came up, he struggled. Scott Profrock on last week said, look, he came up, he struggled. He struggled in spring training. But he's now, it looks like he's worked out some things. What are the big improvements he's made that you're noticing?
Well, and I think they handled him perfectly, to be honest with you, because, you want to bring out a guy when he's definitely ready to be here full time. You don't want to bring up a guy and then have to send him down in 2 weeks because then, confidence can get shattered, that kind of thing. So, last year he really never had a really good hot streak that, that made you think, okay, we got to bring this guy up. He looks like he's ready. He was hitting the ball from day one in AAA this year, and I think the timing was right. He was hitting so well for so long that they figured, okay, let's see if it'll carry over to the big leagues, and it has. And the thing that's jumped out to me in the 5 games that he's been up here is confidence. I mean, this kid goes up there, looks like he knows what he's doing. He looks like he is sure that he's going to succeed in that situation. I mean, even look back to last night's game as a prime example. He had 2 different game-tying hits, and he just went up there with it seemed like the confidence that, you know what, I'm up out here for a reason. I'm going to make it happen. He's been aggressive at the plate, and that could work against him at some situations. But I think it's really worked for him in the last week. He's taken that confidence that he built in Allentown, and he's riding it here, and he looks like the real deal. The other thing, he has a gun at third base. I mean, it's the strongest arm I've seen at third base from a Phillies player probably since Phillies, and it might even be a tick stronger than Phillies.
Well, good news for him. Obviously, it's good to see him come up and succeeding. As you mentioned, the confidence, that's something that you always are, risking with these young players. How are they going to handle coming up here? And if they struggle a little bit, are they going to get, lose that confidence? And obviously, he didn't lose it from struggling last year. Obviously, this is a team that has a lot of younger players way down there. But Nola's an interesting guy, and there's been so much talk about him that he was the most MLB-ready guy. And the Phillies didn't really need a guy that was MLB ready. And here he is just...
He's set in 2009, 2010, right?
Exactly, and here's this guy just dominating. How do you play this? Do you just keep him down there pitching above his level? Or, how do you work out Nola? Do you anticipate that we'll see him before September, or do they not want to, burn that year?
I think there's a lot of factors at play, and surely, service time and all that will come in. But... you have to understand this is a team that's also trying to bring people to the ballpark. And to me, that the easiest transition is when Cole Hamels is traded, Aaron Nola's on your major league roster. I mean, to me, it just almost seems like a no-brainer because, if he continues to show that has no problem getting minor league hitters out, which he's done in AA, and if he gets promoted to AAA, sometime in the near future and is there for about a month, and then timing works out where Cole Hamels is traded sometime in June and July, and Nola's still dominating at AA, AAA. To me, it's a pretty seamless transition, and it also gives again they're very cognizant of ticket sales, and when you trade a player of Hamels' caliber, it's going to be controversial still, even though a lot of fans think it's the right thing to do. So I think a way to kind of supplement that a little bit is like, hey, come look at the guy that's the next big thing in our rotation. So if I'm a betting man, I think he's up before September.
Well, that would be interesting to see how they play that because that's something that they typically have not done a lot of in the past anyway. Is kind of bring these guys up and let them play at that level.
Well, they haven't had a whole lot of guys. And That's the thing. I don't necessarily think that they haven't brought young players up. I just don't think they've had the young players to bring up. Because this hasn't exactly been a farm system teeming with talent. I mean, they did bring Don Brown up, and going back, Cole Hamels, Jimmy Rollins, all those guys came up at a young age. But the fact of the matter is, they really haven't had a great prospect since Cole Hamels.
That's true.
Before Franco arrived on the scene.
Well, the weird thing is, Ryan,
some of these pitchers have come up early. I mean, Vance Worley came up early. David Buchanan was pretty young. So
yeah, that's the weird thing, though. It seems that guys that they will bring up early are guys that you didn't hear a lot about. Cody Ashley was not a guy that people were like, I can't wait to see this guy, yet he's kind of handed a position at 22, 23 years old, and it's like, all right, how come he's ready at that age, and yet...
Yeah, he was a college player, and he was a fast riser. I mean, he was the guy that I think they only drafted in, 2010, 2011, maybe even 12. I don't have it in front of me, but I just think he was more mature because he played in college, and I think there's something to that. I mean, you have kids that are 17, 18 when you draft them. You can't really expect them to be major league ready in 2 or 3 years, but I think a college player is a little bit more groomed and probably, Division I college baseball is probably close equivalent to AA or, high-level Class A. So, I think those guys already got to jump on, and that's why I think Cody Ashley's a little bit different.
Real quick, Odubel Herrera, playing center field, young guy. They got him out there pretty much every day. Does he have the look to you as a guy who could be a player?
I don't know. It's interesting. The one thing is he's a free swinger, and then for a smaller guy, and I think he's a lot like Revere, just has maybe a little bit more pop, and not home run pop, because I don't think either one of them are home run guys, but maybe some more extra base type power. He's very athletic. I think we've seen that both in the field and running the bases. I think there's a place for him, but I can't sit here and say in 2 or 3 years that he's definitely going to be in that outfield. I haven't written him off either. I think he's definitely shown some good signs too. But I think it's too early, 6 weeks into the season to say that he's the center fielder of the future, or he's the left fielder of the future, or whatever you want to call him. So I would just say he's kind of still an unfinished product.
Gotcha. All right, Severino Gonzalez tonight in Colorado as the Phillies take on the Rockies, trying to start up a new win streak. 8:40 on the East Coast here as Ryan and the guys are out there in Colorado, where the Phillies look to make a win streak again. They are 19-11 at Coors Field since 2005, best in the National League, so they've played well at Coors. We'll see if they can continue that. Ryan, always a pleasure, buddy. Take care. Enjoy Colorado.
All right, Mike. Have a good one.